Congratulations, you just won your state's election. Your wife cries with emotion on stage. Your kids are holding balloons with your name on them. There are fireworks, confetti, thousands of people shouting your last name like it's a war chant. You're 52 years old. You have a 3-decade political career and 63% of the vote. You won by a landslide. The people chose you because you promised to end corruption, violence, and fear. You promised things were going to change. You promised you were going to clean up the state once and for all. The night of your victory, you sleep 4 hours. The next day, the meetings begin. Government transition, work teams, appointments. You have a list of secretaries you prepared over months, people you trust, technicians, honest professionals who want to do things right. You're ready to govern. You think you know what's coming. You have no idea. Your first strange call comes 3 days after the election. It's an unknown number. You answer because it could be important. The voice on the other end is calm, polite, almost friendly. Congratulations, Governor. Good thing you won. We're waiting here to talk. We're glad someone like you is going to be in charge. I'm sure we're going to work together very well. They hang up before you can respond. You tell your campaign manager. He goes pale. He tells you it was to be expected. He tells you all governors get that call. He tells you not to worry, that they'll talk later. You don't understand. You still don't understand what's about to happen. If you also once thought governors had total control of their states, let me know in the comments. Your inauguration is an impeccable event. Federal authorities, businessmen, ambassadors, national and international press. You give a speech about justice, about transparency, about the new dawn your people deserve. The applause is genuine. The hope is real. You believe it yourself. You leave the Congress feeling invincible. That night, there's a private dinner in your honor. You arrive at the restaurant, and it's empty, except for one table. There are 6 men sitting there. Expensive suits, gold watches, smiles that seem friendly but hide something you can't name. One of them gets up and hugs you like he's known you all his life. "Governor, what a pleasure. Please sit down. This is your house." They sit you at the head of the table. They pour you 50-year-old whiskey. Nobody speaks for several minutes. Finally, the one who seems to be the leader breaks the silence. "Look, Governor, we're businessmen, serious people. We don't want problems with anyone, we just want to work in peace. You run your government, open your schools, go on TV. We take care of our business, and everyone's happy." They explain the rules. There are zones your police can't enter. There are names you can't touch. There are operations you must consult before authorizing. There are security appointments they must approve. There's a percentage of public works that goes through their construction companies. There are routes that must stay open. There are ports that don't get inspected. There are highways that don't get monitored. You tell them no. You tell them you want to change things. You tell them the people elected you to end this. They look at each other and smile. The leader sighs like he's talking to a child. "Look, Governor, everyone says that at first. Everyone arrives wanting to be heroes. But this doesn't work that way. You have a family, you have kids, you have a very beautiful wife. You have a future ahead of you. Don't throw it away out of stubbornness. Think it over. There's no rush here." You leave the dinner without eating. You can't sleep that night. The next day you call the president. You tell him what happened. He's silent for a long moment. Then he tells you to be careful, that things are complicated, that you have to know how to pick your battles, that the federal government has its own problems, that he wishes you luck. He hangs up. You understand you're alone. Hit that like button if you didn't expect the loneliness of power to be so literal. Your first month in office is a series of terrible discoveries. You discover that 30% of your state police is on the cartel's payroll. You discover that your attorney general has an account in Andorra with $3 million he can't explain. You discover that the state's biggest construction contract has been assigned to the same shell company for 10 years. You discover there are commanders you can't remove because they have protection from above. You discover your predecessor wasn't corrupt by choice,
but by survival. You try to make changes. You appoint a new security secretary, a retired military man with a reputation for being incorruptible. 15 days later, they find his son beaten up outside his school. The message is clear. The secretary resigns without public explanation. You appoint another one. This one lasts
A month before he receives a video of his wife entering a hotel with another man. The video is edited, fabricated, but it doesn't matter. The scandal destroys him. The third one you appoint is the one they recommend, a commander with a clean record on paper, but with eyes that don't lie. You know he works for both sides. You appoint him anyway because you no longer have options. The pressure intensifies. Every week there's a reminder that you're not in control. A businessman friend of yours disappears for 3 days and reappears not wanting to talk about what happened. A journalist investigating corruption in your administration turns up dead on a highway. Your communications director finds an envelope with photos of your kids in their backpacks. There are no written threats. They're not necessary. Tell me in the comments if you've ever imagined what it feels like to make decisions when your family is at risk. You start negotiating. You don't call it that. You call it being pragmatic. You authorize the contracts they ask for. You stop investigating the cases they indicate. You appoint the people they suggest. You warn them before any major operation. You give them time to move, to hide, to disappear. Every concession destroys you a little inside. But your kids are still alive. Your wife is still safe. You're still breathing. Your public approval drops month after month. People see that nothing changes. Homicides keep rising. Disappearances don't stop. Businessmen flee to other states. The economy stagnates. The media criticizes you. The opposition attacks you. But they can't imagine what you're facing. They can't know that every decision you make is a calculation between bad and worse. They can't understand that governing in controlled territory is managing defeat in the least painful way possible. You become an actor in your own life. By day, you're the institutional governor. You give speeches about security. You open hospitals. You visit communities. You smile for the cameras. You give interviews. You pretend everything's under control. At night, you're someone else. The one who answers calls from unknown numbers. The one who authorizes money transfers he can't explain. The one who signs documents without reading them. The one who looks the other way when they pass him reports he should act on. You live two lives that contradict each other, but are impossible to separate. You meet other governors in the same circumstances. There are informal meetings where nobody says anything explicit, but everyone understands. There's a shared code, a language of looks and silences. You discover the country's map is divided into plazas, and that each state answers to different groups. You discover some governors don't even pretend to resist. You discover that those who tried to be heroes are dead, exiled, or politically destroyed. You adapt. You rationalize. You tell yourself you're protecting your people by choosing peace over war. You tell yourself at least the schools are running, the hospitals are operating, the highways are being built. You tell yourself a dead governor doesn't help anyone. You tell yourself you're doing what's possible within the impossible. You tell yourself this so many times, you almost believe it. Share this video with someone who needs to understand why things don't change even when the governors change. 3 years go by. Your administration is an exercise in survival disguised as public administration. You meet the minimum. You avoid major scandals. You keep a low profile. Those who put you in power are satisfied. They call you from time to time to remind you who's in charge. They invite you to baptisms and weddings where you must appear and smile. They treat you with respect because you're holding up your end of the deal. One day you receive federal intelligence information. They're going to arrest the leader of the group that controls your state. Surprise operation, coordinated with the United States without telling you. You have a 48-hour head start. You could say nothing. You could let justice take its course. You could finally be the governor you promised to be. You pick up the phone and dial the number you never wanted to dial.
You warn him. You give him the details. You save his life. The operation fails. The leader escapes. The media talks about leaks, about corruption in the institutions. Nobody points to you. Nobody knows. But you know. And that night, looking at yourself in the mirror, you see someone you no longer recognize. Your 6-year term ends without fanfare. They don't investigate you. They don't pursue you. They don't jail you. You retire to a comfortable private life with properties you can't explain and accounts you'll never declare. You write a memoir where you tell an edited version of your administration. You give lectures on leadership and governance. Some respect you, others despise you, most forget you. But you don't forget.
You can't forget the midnight calls, the impossible decisions, the faces of those you sacrificed to survive. You can't forget that you arrived promising to change everything and ended up being part of what you promised to destroy. You can't forget that the system devoured you without you noticing when you stopped resisting. This is what you are now, a former governor who had all the formal power and no real power. A politician who entered the palace with ideals and left with compromises he can never confess. A man who discovered that in this country there are territories where the state is just a facade and the real government isn't elected at the ballot box. You're the proof that democracy has limits nobody mentions in speeches. The most visible official of an invisible system that controlled everything while you signed papers and cut ribbons. Living a peaceful retirement you paid for with pieces of your soul you'll never get back.